This was the first industrial revolution in cycling history. The man flipped his bicycle handlebars upside down, positioned himself in a prone posture, and began to ride. Unexpectedly, this small modification significantly boosted his speed, allowing him to overtake the rider ahead in mere moments. Yet, the man wasn't satisfied, and, to create even greater speed, he immediately dismantled his only washing machine at home, taking its 1,200 RPM bearings to install into his bicycle wheels. He collected steel pipes from the scrapyard, compressed them to uniform specifications, and welded them together with precision. After 29 days of assembly, the world's first TT bicycle was successfully born. However, he was met with skepticism from his friends, as the man dared to dream of breaking the 1-hour track cycling world record with this ramshackle contraption. After all, professional racing bikes cost no less than £500,000 and are all meticulously designed by computers. In contrast, his crudely assembled pile of scrap metal wouldn't even sell for $50. Yet, against all odds, he truly broke the world record twice with this sub-$50 scrap heap, becoming the veritable Flying Scotsman. This true inspirational story will surely give you, feeling anxious and lost, the motivation to persevere. The boy's name was Graeme, and due to being frail and sickly in his youth, he became an easy target for bullies. Every time after church prayers, he'd be chased down and tormented by the troublemakers because he couldn't run fast enough, suffering repeated humiliation even on Christmas Eve. His father, a naval lieutenant commander, wanted to stand up for him, but Graeme lacked even the courage to point out his tormentors. Hoping to help his timid son escape the bullies, his often absent father tentatively gave him a bicycle. Little did anyone know, the gears of fate began to turn from that moment. From then on, the bicycle seemed to give wings to his legs, carrying him away from the shadows and bullying of his childhood. 10 years washed away the childishness from his face, making the bicycle his sole passion and confidant. Graeme's activities outside work involved participating in various cycling events. While his leg strength was mediocre, his exceptional endurance forged one glorious achievement after another in competitions. And this was all thanks to his profession. Compared to amateur racers, working as a bicycle courier gave him significantly more time to practice riding. In addition, he ran a struggling bike shop, but due to suppression from competitors, few customers ever came, and the occasional ones only showed up looking to take advantage of him. For instance, a bicycle priced at £300, but Scobie only offered £200. Graeme not only didn't haggle, but also offered to deliver it for free. But Scobie declared, "You on your bike won't get there faster than me in my van." This instantly ignited Graeme's competitive spirit, and he bet Scobie that if he arrived first by bike, Scobie would pay full price. Otherwise, it would be free. Seeing it as a no-risk bargain, Scobie gladly accepted. So, witnessed by Reverend Baxter nearby, a speed duel between bicycle and van commenced. Initially, the van held the lead, but at a red light, Graeme, desperate to win, took a daring risk, gaining himself over 10 seconds of precious pedaling time. After that, Graeme remained slightly ahead, and watching the determined young man and his relentless bicycle, Baxter thought Graeme might not lose after all. But Scobie believed regaining the lead meant he had won this contest of speed and nerve. Yet, just as the finish line seemed in sight, Graeme suddenly raced in from another junction, catching Scobie completely off guard. Although Graeme was knocked down by the van, the sweet taste of victory seemed to numb the pain. Scobie cursed, scolding Graeme for caring more about money than his life, but still conceded defeat. Baxter admired this reckless and driven young man, seeing in him the vitality of his own youth. But after only a handshake, Graeme hurried away, as he had a full day's work ahead. Waiting for the post office to open, fellow courier Malky instantly recognized Graeme, as he was then the British 1-hour cycling record holder. Graeme enthusiastically shared his sandwich, but the thick layer of orange marmalade made it barely swallowable for Malky. Graeme simply stated, "The sugar keeps me going all day long." After work, the like-minded pair cycled together on breezy mountain roads and rested under ancient, vibrant trees. The breeze rippling the lake carried away the day's weariness. Just then, Malky pulled out a magazine with an article about the famous British cyclist Boardman, who was planning to break the 1-hour track record 9 weeks later. It was a record untouched for 9 years, and success would cement his place in history. Inspired, Graeme began dreaming of breaking the world record himself. But even pushing his body to its limit, he was still far off. unless he could invent a brand new way to ride or create a revolutionary piece of equipment. As he pondered this, a loose screw on his handlebars sparked a sudden inspiration. So he experimentally flipped the handlebars, grips facing up, and mimicked a skiing posture, lying prone on the bike to ride. Unexpectedly, this small change brought a dramatic speed increase. But this was only Graeme's first step in developing new equipment. That evening, he and Malky went to the scrapyard to collect discarded materials. Unexpectedly, their sneaky operation was caught by Baxter, but instead of reprimanding them, he kindly returned a dropped part they'd lost while escaping. Baxter was curious what they wanted with useless scrap. Graeme explained he was building a new type of bicycle, animatedly describing its principle using gestures. Just as professional skiers lower their posture to reduce wind resistance, this same aerodynamic principle applies to bicycle design. He declared confidently, "Once my new bike is finished, I will break the world record." But Malky voiced his doubts at this point. The first issue was that building a bicycle required a large sum of money to buy vast amounts of material. The second issue was that they had no workshop space to build the bicycle. The third issue was that challenging the record required renting a world-class indoor velodrome, a cost far beyond Graeme's meager wages. However, Graeme, with his soaring ambition, was determined to overcome these mountains. He begged Malky to act as his agent to secure sponsorship for the third problem, while he himself would collect scrap materials to solve the first problem. The kind Baxter, seeing his resolve and courage, decided to offer his small warehouse, providing Graeme the space to build his bike. He believed investing in a young dream could bring light back to his fading years. Just like that, solutions were found for all three problems. Graeme decided he would break the world record 1 week before Boardman's attempt. To achieve this, he immediately threw himself into building the new bicycle. Every compression was a precious step on the road to building his dream. Every weld was a clear footprint of an ideal taking shape. Every moment of focus was a scene worth cherishing in the memories of later life. To have more time for training rides, Graeme simply quit his job as a postman, dedicating all his remaining energy to physical conditioning. His legs kept pedaling nonstop, and sweat drenched the ground, all for a dream that no longer felt so far away. Compared to the support of Baxter and Malky, Graeme was even more grateful for his wife's understanding. Not only did she not complain about Graeme's decision, she offered to work extra shifts at the hospital for more income, and even joined her husband for training after work. Souls meeting creates an unending poetry of life. Hearts relying on each other is the rarest gift time can offer. Meanwhile, Malky dressed himself in a sharp suit, meeting various businessmen under the title of managing director of a private management company. However, having delivered mail locally for years, the receptionists always recognized his true identity as a postman, leading to ruthless rejection at the door. Repeated failures left him somewhat dejected, but luck finally favored him when he met an old school friend on the street who introduced him to a parking lot owner. But the moment they met, Armstrong immediately began stripping off his clothes, startling Malky considerably. Fortunately, Armstrong was merely changing into cycling gear and didn't have any eccentric tendencies. Being a passionate cycling enthusiast himself, and learning that fellow Scot Graeme was the British 1-hour record holder aiming to break the world record, Armstrong readily agreed to be their exclusive sponsor. While Malky succeeded in his mission, Graeme never stopped refining his bicycle design. But a sudden problem left him struggling. Where on earth could he find bearings capable of handling high-speed rotation? Feeling lost, he sat by the lake, overwhelmed by defeat, his mood sinking to its lowest point. Baxter asked why he looked so down, and Graeme explained that every month there were a few days when he just fell into a slump. Thankfully, he soon pulled himself out of this state. Staring at his high-speed spinning washing machine while deep in thought at home, a bold idea suddenly struck him. When Anne came home from work, she was shocked to find her husband dismantling their only washing machine just to take out the 1,200 RPM bearing and install it into his bike wheel. But when Baxter heard about this, he didn't praise Graeme's ingenuity. Instead, he remarked on how fortunate Graeme was to have such a supportive wife. After a period of assembly, the bizarre bicycle, pieced together entirely from scrap materials, was finally complete. Graeme named it Old Faithful. With no professional velodrome nearby, they had to risk a test ride on a flat, busy public road. After some pedaling, Graeme felt the new bike, while imperfect, was generally sound. But his friend and agent Malky saw only an unimpressive pile of scrap with no chance of victory.
The bike that Boardman's going on cost $500,000 to develop and was designed by a computer. So how the hell is that thing that's made out of scrap and washing machine parts going to break a record that stood since before they were born?
Having worked so hard to overcome obstacles and secure sponsorship, Malky found it hard to accept that Graeme had spent so much time assembling what looked like an old piece of junk. Graeme countered that the new bike was built strictly according to the laws of physics, with every detail grounded in science. Though it looked old, its performance rivaled professional racing bikes. The disagreement led to a heated argument between the two right by the roadside. However, this didn't affect their friendship. They continued moving forward toward their shared goal, as always. Graeme kept honing his skills, while Malky booked the cycling track at the Norwegian stadium and used the sponsorship money to arrange flights in advance. As the 8th week arrived, the long-standing record welcomed a new challenger. Just as Graeme was preparing to assemble Old Faithful, Malky presented him with a surprise. He had persuaded the sponsor to produce a 1-to-1 replica of a new Old Faithful, convinced the original scrap heap was too unreliable. Graeme knocked on the frame and immediately judged that the materials used were heavier than Old Faithful, which would affect speed. But breaking the record on this new bike would guarantee the sponsor's funding for the entire next year. Not wanting to disappoint his friend and thinking of the long-term future, Graeme ultimately decided to ride the new bike. To break the world record, Graeme needed to complete 205 laps, covering 51 kilometers in 1 hour, an immense physical challenge. As the timer started, Graeme, who had traveled far with grand ambitions, began his challenge. Behind him were his wife's cheers, and ahead lay the endlessly looping track. His speed increased with each lap, like a streak of red lightning flashing around the velodrome. Maintaining this pace would see his name etched as the world record holder. But as time went on, the disadvantage of the heavier bike began to show, and sweat started to stream down his face. Worse, the terrifying whispers of his childhood demons invaded his mind as his body neared its limit, preventing full concentration. Seeing the dwindling time and 3 laps still to go, Malky was almost certain this attempt would end in failure for Graeme. Sure enough, when the hour elapsed, Graeme fell short by 2 laps, ending the challenge in heartbreaking disappointment. Though this result set a new personal best, for Graeme, whose goal was the world record, it was a complete failure. With Anne's gentle whispers calming him, Graeme finally managed to settle his emotions. In truth, he had never escaped the shadow of childhood bullying over the past decade. It was merely masked by his wife's tenderness in daily life. To truly conquer the fear born from his childhood trauma required a monumental victory to prove himself, which was also the real reason Graeme wanted to challenge the world record. Since the venue rental was for 24 hours, Graeme still had the chance to attempt the challenge again before noon the next day. He decided to start his second attempt at 9 a.m. the next morning, but subjecting his body to another ultra-intense ride in such a short time posed a massive challenge to his physical functions. To prevent his leg muscles from stiffening, he warmed up every 2 hours, ensuring his body was in peak condition before the second attempt. Meanwhile, Malky stayed up all night, spending the entire evening reassembling Old Faithful, believing he bore half the responsibility for this failure. Time came to the next day, and a reinvigorated Graeme, riding the reassembled Old Faithful, returned to the track. Staff advised him not to invite humiliation, but Graeme ignored their doubts, resolutely starting his attempt once more. Striving is that tenacity, which endures failure, yet retains the original resolve. Courage is that steadfastness which rides headlong, undeterred by wind and rain. Ambition is that determination which scales mountains in pursuit of a dream. And the fusion of these 3 forms, the inner driving force that propels a rider forward without hesitation. In the first half hour of riding, a blazing Graeme led the world record pace by a full lap, yet as his stamina gradually waned, the nightmare of his childhood shadows once again clouded his mind. This time, however, Anne and Malky's thunderous cheers echoing through the velodrome proved surprisingly effective at dispelling that fear. With 2 gunshots from the starter, Graeme officially entered the final sprint phase. He still led the world record by a full lap, but his physical strength had simultaneously reached its absolute limit. The only thing sustaining his pedaling cadence were his resolve to reach the summit and his unbreakable willpower. On this endlessly looping circular track, only those who endure the most painful persistence deserve the cheers and applause awaiting them at the finish. In the end, thanks to the remarkable performance of Old Faithful and Graeme's unwavering perseverance, he successfully broke the record that had been sealed away for 9 years. The £4,000 prize and a full year of sponsorship were enough to temporarily free them from their frugal existence. But while everyone else celebrated wildly, Graeme retreated alone to a dim corner. Malky didn't understand why Graeme was hiding himself. Only Anne knew he was privately confronting his low mood. And Graeme's intermittent dark moods all stemmed from the shadow of childhood bullying. This condition was later named depression. As the 9th week arrived, renowned cyclist Boardman duly challenged the 1-hour cycling world record as originally reported. Friends watched anxiously to see if Graeme's newly set record would be broken, while Graeme himself seemed utterly unconcerned, simply going for his usual street ride, only to suffer an unexpected flat tire. With no choice, he headed into a bar to borrow a phone and call for help, only to run into the bullies from his past.
So what you did back here then, champ? Just come back to show us, did you? Fuck off.
Graeme had no intention of engaging with the bullies, but they cornered him at the bar entrance just like they had 10 years ago. This time, however, Graeme didn't flee. He chose the courage to fight back. The fierce intensity radiating from him made the thugs freeze, too hesitant to make a move. One cannot remain trapped in the past. Life, like a bicycle, moves ever forward. What we must truly learn is to boldly confront past fears, pull ourselves from the mire, bravely turn the page, and journey towards more rewarding horizons. Meanwhile, after 1 hour of pursuit, Boardman unsurprisingly broke the record Graeme had set just a week prior. The title of world's fastest changed hands again, leaving Graeme overshadowed. But his unyielding spirit drove him to enter the 4-kilometer pursuit race 5 weeks later, determined to face Boardman head-on. Though his strength lay in endurance events, though his bike was low cost while Boardman's 500,000-pound machine boasted carbon fiber technology, Graeme felt no fear, because he still had a secret weapon, his self-invented prone, ski-inspired riding position. As the 4-kilometer pursuit race began, Graeme surged into the lead, finding his rhythm instantly. Boardman, unwilling to be outdone, followed closely behind. This chase tested not just raw ability, but also the unwavering resolve to win under pressure. Graeme's face contorted with effort, his pedaling cadence pushed to the limit, gears screaming like a cornered beast, chains whipping around like frenzied silver snakes.
A new world record for Graeme Obree, who goes through into the final.
Ultimately, Graeme defeated Boardman by 2.38 seconds, reclaiming the pinnacle and simultaneously setting a new world record for the 4-kilometer pursuit. However, his opponent Boardman wasn't angered by the result. Instead, he was deeply impressed by Graeme's strength. Graeme stood on the podium, basking in the crowning glory. However, the head of the Cycling Association seemed displeased with this outcome. Upon returning home, Graeme received a hero's welcome from the Scottish people. It wasn't just for setting a new world record, but for defeating the Englishman Boardman in competition. For this, the local mayor bestowed upon him the title, the Flying Scotsman. But just as everyone was celebrating wildly, the Cycling Association was discussing how to sanction Graeme. If a scrap heap costing less than £50 could set a world record, how could bicycle manufacturers sell their overpriced, flashy products? This directly threatened their own interests. So finally, the association banned him from competition, citing safety concerns with his self-designed bike. Facing the association's hypocritical sanctions, Graeme directly showcased his new bicycle to the media. This humorous counterattack instantly turned the association into a public laughingstock, and the association's leadership intensified their sanctions against Graeme. They kept changing the competition rules, but Graeme always found a way to counter their unreasonable restrictions. When saddle length couldn't exceed 5 centimeters, he sawed a section off on the spot to meet the standard. When bike parts had to be commercially available, he sourced replacements from civilian vehicles. Every new rule the association devised was unexpectedly circumvented by Graeme. Ultimately, the powerless association had to allow Graeme back into races, but imposed a new restriction targeting his unique riding position. The association ruled that riders could not ride with their chest touching their hands during a race, or face disqualification after 3 violations. This was like putting iron shackles on the Flying Scotsman's wings. During the World Championship qualifiers, despite Graeme holding back significantly, sharp-eyed referees still caught him twice for violations. Finally, utterly unable to adapt to the new rule, he crashed heavily from his bike. The once triumphant world record holder suffered a humiliating defeat in the qualifiers, a result he couldn't accept, and the deep-seated sense of failure surged through him once more. Dejected, Graeme watched the race footage over and over, drowning his mind sip by sip in alcohol. At this moment, his childhood bullies brutally dealt him another blow, and the misfortune of past bullying, along with his recent defeat, became ammunition for their verbal humiliation. Compared to physical beatings, this kind of verbal mental attack was far more damaging. Amid the relentless mockery and intimidation, Graeme's temporarily managed mental illness flared up again. An indescribable pain spread through his entire body. Finally, unable to endure the torment, he impulsively went to a remote mountain forest intending to end his life. The rope's poor quality suddenly snapped, allowing him to be rescued by a passing cyclist. Afterwards, Anne wanted to find the best therapist for Graeme, but he said he would solve his problems his own way. However, his so-called solution was merely escape, locking his grand ideals away in an abandoned shed, letting his past efforts sleep in a dark corner, no longer pursuing his dreams, returning to being an unknown postman. But life isn't just about the low points. There can also be unexpected kindness from others. While renovating their track, the Norwegian stadium specially sent a piece of the old surface to this record breaker. It commemorated his historic achievement while encouraging his dejected spirit, and the first letter Graeme delivered after returning to his postal job was arranged deliberately by Baxter. Baxter had decided to join a merchant ship to seek adventure and feel young once more. Before leaving, he wanted to help Graeme one last time. In their talk, Baxter openly shared that his late wife had suffered from the same depression as Graeme. She was ravaged relentlessly by life, peeled away layer by loneliness. Her hopes shattered time and again by delusion, until she ended her life in despair within the darkness.
We can talk about it.
What's the point in talking about it?
Have you ever talked about it before? So, why do you think there's no point?
It made me feel worthless, like I was nothing.
It's alright, it's alright. It's like your first time on a bike. Just keep going. You'll be fine.
Life is like your first time riding a bike. Just keep moving forward, and you'll be all right. Baxter's words made Graeme start to re-examine himself. He lifted the cloth that had long covered his bike. His old comrade had never left. By the bed, his wife had always been there for him. In the corner of the desk, his son had drawn a superhero dad who was fearless and strong. These ever-present pillars of support in his life made Graeme realize how wrong his desire to flee was, and he began regaining confidence, preparing to face his illness actively, to be the superhero father his son saw, to honor his wife's years of unwavering support, to repay Baxter and Malky's enduring kindness, and to become a true man again. Graeme decided to fight his way back, determined to win another championship to prove himself. He began intense training for the World Championships 1 year later. The media eagerly reported news of his comeback. As time flowed on, a year later, Graeme once again stood on the World Championship stage. Now, all he needed to do was forget all restraints and be that stubborn, determined fool once more. To comply with the association's rules, Malky had installed a pad on the handlebars, so Graeme's chest would never touch his hands. Before the race, his wife wished him luck from the stands. The people of Scotland watched closely on TV, and Baxter sat quietly by his radio, silently praying. With the crack of the starting pistol, the race began. Facing the reigning world champion, Graeme felt no fear, because his only real opponent was the timid, cowardly self he used to be. This Flying Scotsman, reborn from life's adversities, had become a beacon of hope for countless cycling enthusiasts. The setbacks that failed to break him completely had only made him stronger. The heart-wrenching suffering of his past had transformed into boundless power beneath his feet. The moments of silent, lonely struggle would now be forever crushed beneath the tires of his bike. He sprinted forward with desperate force, determined to banish his past fears for good. Through the nightmare forest, through the shackling swamp, through the misty wasteland, and through the deepest shadows of his childhood. The final 2 laps. Anne closed her eyes. Baxter held his breath. Graeme gave absolutely everything. Ultimately, the reborn Flying Scotsman created another miracle in the cycling world. He walked into the cheering crowd, basking in his crowning glory. Under the focus of countless cameras, he permanently inscribed the names of his 3 life-changing supporters onto Old Faithful. Baxter, soon to depart, raised his glass. One toast to Graeme, one to himself. Even the association officials who had once gone to great lengths to obstruct him were finally won over by his strength. This is a true story. In Graeme Obree's life, he broke the world record twice, won 2 world championships, and is the undisputed Flying Scotsman. Though he once plunged into the depths of despair, hardship never truly stopped his forward momentum. Perhaps, as Baxter said, life is like a bike ride. Just keep moving forward, and you'll be all right. Because there is no pain in life that cannot be healed, no despair that cannot end. All that is lost will return in another form. And there is no straight path in this world. The road to success is never smooth and wide, nor is realizing one's dreams ever plain sailing. But flowers bloom and fade, tides rise and fall, everything has its conclusion. In life's cycling race, as long as we keep moving forward, no matter how rough the road, our future will still be bright. Even if the flower of hope wilts in winter, hold fast to the belief that hardship ends and sweetness comes. Come next spring, it will surely bloom even more brilliantly.